Hello, everyone. This is Gail, aka Sunshine. Welcome to the final episode in the When Cancer Hits Home series presented by Epic Experience and Pickles Group, where we explore what healing looks like for the entire family going through a cancer journey. Today, we have two survivors with us. We have Amanda Blackburn and Michael Roy. Thank you both for joining us around the campfire.
Thanks.
So, I'm going to start like I usually do, and I'm going to ask you both to tell us a little bit about yourselves and please include one fun fact. So, Amanda, we'll start with you.
Well, first, hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Amanda Simi Blackburn. Simi is my camp name. And it comes from a fun place. So it was kind of my way of putting a spin on my cancer diagnosis. So I had colorectal cancer and I have a semicolon. And I know some people on the West Coast say semi, but I'm from the South, so we say semicolon here. So I have a semicolon, so that's where my camp name came from. But I've got two wonderful daughters. I have one amazing bonus daughter, and my honey, his name is Jared. We were sweethearts in high school and reconnected later in life, so that's been a blessing. And I guess one fun fact about me is I retired from the Air Force 2 years ago after spending 25 years in the service.
Congratulations and thank you for your
Thank
service.
you. Thank you.
Michael.
All right. Again, thank you guys for having me. I'm so glad to be here, just sharing the story. Name's Michael Roy. I'm a communicator and writer by trade, and my passion. Um, I've worked in education, community engagement, health marketing, as well as presently taxpayer-funded public affairs projects and content creation. So a big part of my story, it just now includes being a prostate cancer survivor. So I've been married 19 years. We have two daughters and a cat. And one fun fact about me is I'm an identical twin, and we were born 6 weeks premature on our mom's birthday.
Wow.
Cool.
That is fun. Maybe not at the time, but now that
No,
you
not at the time at all.
right. Exactly. All right. Well, I'm going to ask you both. You've Michael, you said your prostate,
Yes.
semi. I'm going to say semi for you because I'm one of the ones who
No,
says semi.
thank
Semi.
you.
You are colorectal. So I'm going to ask both of you just to give us a brief you were diagnosed, your treatment, like a real kind of hot facts type thing. Michael, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer as a young Black man. I was only 37 years old. I didn't have any symptoms, didn't even know I had cancer. Had moved from Austin to Houston and had found a new doctor. And my first visit, this doctor just elected to test my PSA levels without me asking to have it done. And that's really how I found out. So I was diagnosed stage one. I just had a radical prostatectomy, so I had surgery because my doctors felt like I'd be able to bounce back very quickly, and I was. Um, and so yeah, that's it essentially.
Wow. When was this? What year?
2018.
2018. Okay.
Yes.
Amanda.
Wow. So I'm going to say also, Michael, I was diagnosed at 37 too. So that's our new fun fact.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm 45 now, but I was 37 when I was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. It is very important, and I like to scream it as loud as I can from the mountaintop that I have no family history. So I know a lot of times people are like, oh, they have a family history, or oh, it's an old person's disease. But colorectal cancer does not discriminate, just like every other cancer. I did, all the treatment, chemo, radiation, surgeries. I had a lower anterior resection with an ileostomy for 10 months. And thankfully, I was blessed to be able to have that reversed. And so they did that. All that happened in like a year's time frame. So it was like a whirlwind during that year. So.
And for you, that was what year?
I was diagnosed in 2017, August of 17, and then I finished my treatment like right around the same time in 2018.
Wow, you guys are really on the same
I know.
schedule there. Well, this is
Yeah.
perfect that you're here together. So, and
Yes.
what we're talking about today is the impact of those diagnoses that you each had on your family. I mean, really, that's kind of been the crux of the whole series. But today, we really want to talk about the whole family impact. So we'll start with Like, how did it impact your family routines, and daily life? How did daily life change for you guys? That's part 1, and then part 2, what helped you create a new sense of normal in that sphere? So, Amanda, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so it definitely changed up the routine. At the time, I was a single mom. My girls were 9 and 10, so that obviously was a huge impact. My parents, who also I will say were my caregivers,
Hmm,
um, you know, they were amazing, and very much supported me. And, you know, whenever I would have an infusion, you know, they would pack up and come to the house and, you know, take care of my kids, make sure they were eating, make sure they went to sports, made sure if it was a birthday party, it was the same kind of birthday party that, you know, I would have planned so that things could stay consistent here. So I'm very blessed to have had, you know, my parents, you know, step up to the plate. Which if you ask them, they'd say, we didn't think anything about it. It's just our job, you know? Um, you know, I will say too, while we're talking about the kids, you know, it is very impactful on everybody involved. I did choose, even at 9 and 10, once I knew what my treatment in the regiment and all that was going to be, I did share that very open and honestly with
hmm,
my children, including, you know, they got to see a video of an ileostomy and what that looked like prior to my surgery. Cause I'm like, I don't want to be scary. So I'm just going to show them this. They watched the video with me. They went to a chemo or radiation. They were at my surgeries. So I thought that was
mm,
essential, honestly,
yeah,
in what was happening at the time. And then also with the healing that is always going to continue, I think, to take place. But the new norm, you know, like it's one of those things where you have to embrace the new norm. So, you know, cancer does change things for you. If I had to write down all the negative impacts and the positive impacts of cancer, my positives would certainly outweigh the
mm,
negatives. You know, no doubt cancer's not a fun thing. However, there are a lot of things that come with a cancer diagnosis, whether it be a gaining of friends, a losing of friends, a humbling, you know, a live each day like it's the last day. And then just, you know, some of the things that you value or choose for yourself, you know, and so I think that that was a huge change for me is just, um, making sure that I put myself and my family first.
mm,
You know what I mean? And, you know, filling up people's cups, um, and the people that are filling mine, right? You know, you
yeah,
give and put into those people that are going to be there for you. And so I think that that was a big embrace for me. And then, you know, there's like a physical aspect of, you know, embracing, you know, scars and hair loss and hair growing back and things like that. And that's really tough,
mhm,
especially at the time being a single mom, you know, when I was 37. So I'm still like, okay, I'm still going to date potentially. You know, that was huge.
yeah,
That was a big thing for me to kind of wrap my arms around too.
yeah. Michael, before I move on, I just want to ask, did you incorporate your kids in like shaving your head and doing like, were they part of that whole process?
So I have pictures of my girls in my wig, and yeah, they were part of everything. I'm a firm believer in knowledge is power.
Yeah.
So I just felt like if they know what I know, they won't fill in the blanks with scary thoughts. Like it's scary enough, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I didn't want them to, you know, lay in bed at night going like, oh, I don't know, mom's being weird today. Like what's happening,
Yep.
you know? So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Mhm.
Michael.
Yeah, I will say, everything slowed down, that's for sure. I mean, the night I was diagnosed is like, and there's a whole nother story to that, but just up until the night I was told I had cancer, I had there was nothing otherwise they would have told me because I didn't have symptoms. My primary care physician actually thought it was a prostate infection. So I was kind of going
Mm,
with that. And then, she put me on antibiotics. And when she felt like my PSA wasn't going down, then she referred me to a urologist. But even then, I never got worried because I felt good, right? And that's
right.
the thing I try to let men know all over the country. Don't even wait until you feel. You need to be going to the doctor to get a baseline. I'm
Mhm.
on my soapbox, but touching touching on what
Preach.
you said, touching on what you said, Amanda, I chose to also get down on my knees the night I was diagnosed, November 1st, 2018, and just talk to my girls, look them in their eyes, just let them know, dad's going to be going through some really tough doctor visits, and that more than anything, I'm going to need like their kisses, and I need them to make me laugh, because, and just every day letting them know, dad's not feeling too good today, or I'm having really big feelings, so that they don't feel, to your point, like in the dark about it, and making them worry about it even more. And so I would say, suddenly life changed, doctor's appointments, recovery time, and just the mental weight of cancer for me, especially because it's not like I had the time to get ready for it because I was feeling a certain way. Like it just hit me like bang, like
Hmm.
wow. And honestly, I found out later after my surgery that prostate cancer runs in my family, but nobody ever talked about it.
Oh
So
my gosh.
because they never talked about it, I believe that because I was going to the doctor regularly, y'all. Like I believe that if I knew about it, I probably could have been letting my doctors know, and they could have been just testing me earlier than when I got. It was just a miracle that this doctor
Hmm.
chose to test my PSA level. That's the only
Yeah.
way that I found out when I did. We can almost
Wow.
assume that if she didn't do that, if I didn't move to Austin and I didn't meet this particular doctor, that it would have progressed to the point where I do have symptoms, and then it's a further along, right?
Hmm.
So we as a family, we had to be intentional, we had to be intentional about maintaining consistency and keeping up communication as a family. And I had to learn to give myself grace when I couldn't be at 100%,
Yeah.
for my wife, for my girls, just for myself, before or after my surgery. So creating a new normal meant, adjusting expectations. I think the biggest thing was finding joy in small everyday routines instead of trying to like bounce back immediately to life as it was before, because I mean, the truth is, it'll never be the same as it was before.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's my thoughts there.
Yeah. How old were your girls at the time?
Oh, then I mean, they're 16 and 11 now, so I mean, they were in elementary.
They
Both
were
of them were
younger.
in, yeah. So, and the thing is, I mean, okay, I'm gonna try to make this concise. My primary care physician connected me to the urologist. Remember, I visited the urologist. I paid a copay. They wanted me to come back to do the biopsy. I paid a copay. Then they wanted me to come back 7 days later to get my results, right? So the night that I went to get my results, I was just thinking, if I'm getting results from a service that was already rendered, I shouldn't have to pay a copay again. I'm just picking up my results, or nevertheless, um, they did try to make me pay a copay, and my wife was, she protested and was like, I don't understand why we're paying a copay. We're getting results. And so the lady at the front desk just chose at that moment to slide my results under the little thing with a sheet of paper, no
Oh
envelope,
my
and it was like
gosh.
a graph or a chart. It wasn't something I could readily understand.
Right.
And so my wife said, no, we would like the doctor to like talk to us about whatever this says on the paper. Well, turns out it said I had cancer. So when I
Wow.
think about the night I was diagnosed, it's actually tied to that whole situation of
Yeah.
the doctor not wanting to see me and tell me that I had cancer because of a $75 copay.
Wow.
Um, so again, that's like a separate component to the story, but yeah,
Yeah.
my girls were
Well,
little at the time. They didn't really understand what was going on. That's why it was important that I just told them like right away.
yeah. I agree. I mean, I've heard this multiple times. I've done enough podcasts on this topic with parents who have been diagnosed, and this is a theme: being open, being honest,
Yeah,
obviously taking into account the age level and
yeah,
what they can understand, but they're smart. Kids are smart.
so smart.
And they're gonna, like you said, Amanda, they're gonna fill in something even scarier if you don't. So
Yeah, and they're smart and they're resilient too, though.
they are.
Like they can take the information and process it probably better than we can as adults.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So what role did community, friendship, and support systems play in helping your whole family navigate the cancer survivorship? And Michael, I'm going to start with you this time.
Yeah, I mean, community was huge. Friends
Mm.
checked in, people, including my primary care physician. Remember, I hadn't talked to her since she referred me to the urologist. So now I'm letting her know the night that I got diagnosed, there's a backstory to her as well. The way I found out about this primary care physician is because remember, we moved from Houston to Austin. My wife is from Austin, and her parents have lived here like years. So they were the ones that told me, you know what, you should go to our physician. We've been seeing her for 15 years. Um, And so I'm glad I did that. But yeah, that night I called her just to say, hey, just letting you know it's stage 1 prostate cancer. And she immediately
Yeah.
said, let's pray, And so she
Wow.
prayed with us that night. The night I was diagnosed, my colleagues and neighbors gave us space when we needed it and encouragement when we didn't have words. And so having that circle of support helped carry the weight so that my family didn't feel like we were an island, like
Yeah.
we were carrying it all alone.
Yeah. Did you have specific support for your kids? Like, did you have a community or family support specifically for your
Church, for
children?
sure,
Yeah.
church. Yes, church.
Yeah.
And our my brother-in-laws and their family, sometimes they would
Yeah.
come get the girls and just take them to go to the park or just
Yeah.
something to like help them be kids.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. It's part of that normal, but keeping the routines going as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. Amanda, how about you?
Well, yeah, it's kind of similar. Also, I had a great community rally around me. My church, my kids' school, kids' friends, my friends, old friends, new friends, which was pretty awesome. Even coming from the military, I work predominantly with guys, and so they, I think, very delicately didn't know how to handle that with me. But they were so supportive as well, and so it was really cool how they showed up, and the people that
Mm,
showed up that I never would have imagined showing up, even
yeah.
if it was just like a meal brought to my family. Although I wasn't eating the meal at the time, but
Right.
it was one less thing that my mom had to do so
Right.
that she could focus on me,
Yeah.
and taking care of me and taking care of my kids. And so I was, very, very grateful for that. And, I'm a firm believer in investing in my people even prior to my cancer diagnosis. And I do think, that's a result of investing in serving your friends and family. You know what I mean? You create
Mhm.
that community around you. And they showed up. And they
Yeah.
showed up big, and so I had friends cleaning my house up, making me brownies. Like this was actually a joke this weekend at Thriving Together is, I'm a very uh you know I'll do it myself. And so it was really a good teaching for me to learn how to accept help.
Yes.
So I mean
Mhm.
that's just one of my biggest takeaways. But the funny thing that we were talking about this past weekend was, my friends were like, we don't know what to do for her, because I'm always like, oh, we're fine. And my mom is also, very, independent. So she's like, oh, we're fine. But I look out the window one day and my friends are like in my backyard building a fire pit,
Aw.
because they knew that, look, I'm like choking up on it, man.
Yeah.
Because they knew, like, they had just heard me say, like, prior to my diagnosis, like, I'm really wanting to get this fire pit put in the backyard. And they showed up with their, spouses, and were out there with rocks and digging. And, it's just amazing,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
how thoughtful, that was. So,
Well, and that isn't something I would think of first in terms of helping a cancer survivor, right? It's the food, it's the daycare for the kids,
yeah,
it's whatever, but gosh, what a cool way for them to show that they saw you, right?
Yeah.
And that
right,
they cared.
right.
I mean,
They
that's
saw me, they were listening, and
yeah,
yeah. So no, I thought that was pretty cool.
that's neat. So it sounds like you both have good relationships with your families. You were close anywhere. I'm curious if this caused your family to grow closer, and if so, how? And or did you discover new outlooks because of this whole cancer journey? Michael, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think because I was so young and otherwise healthy with no symptoms, just like Amanda, we were both basically the same age.
Mhm.
How this seemed to come out of nowhere for me, it forced me and my family to not take time for granted.
Yeah.
The small things, meals together, conversations, laughter, and just being like, those became the big things. Just being
Mhm.
present, like sitting with ourselves, watching a movie or just spending time and like, because I mean, it could be we never know what a day may bring. That's what it really
Yeah.
showed me and my family. And as a family, we become stronger at communicating and showing up for each other. I mean, just beyond my family, my wife and my kids, even my twin brother and his family, my older brother, everyone
Mm.
who was close and saw this happen, I think it just showed all of us the importance of showing up for one another. And so I think as a result of my peculiar diagnosis and how I found out I had cancer, it has forced everyone around me who knows my story to kind of carry a deeper awareness of health, both physical and mental. And so I
Mm.
definitely say that's how it's made us stronger and helped us to see like new outlooks.
Yeah, that's great. Amanda, how about you?
It definitely strengthened my relationships, especially with my mom, I will say,
Mm.
and my daughters. My mom and I have always been very, very close, but it was a different kind of bond.
Mm.
Being an adult and having your mother care for you, like totally different experience than when you're a kid. My family jokes and they call it in the kitchen, they call that my square, and they're always like, stay out of her square. Because I'm cooking, cleaning, doing all the things in there. But it was kind of a funny joke. They're like, oh, you're gonna let your mom in your square. And my mom was like, well, I'm only going to stay in her square for 3 days and then I'm going to leave because I know she's like, stop doing everything. Let me do it. But she was very respectful in a manner of my independence, if
Mm.
that makes sense. Like she was
Yeah.
there to care for me, but she was like, didn't want to leave, but left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
After a couple days, it's like, okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
give you your space, when I started feeling better after my infusions. So I'll say it definitely strengthened our relationship. And my dad too, my dad was still working at the time and he would pack
Mm.
up a bag and come sleep on the couch, so that, he could go to work from here.
Yeah.
My girls, man, so thankful, honestly, that at the time I was single because it really formed
Mm.
a different bond with the three of us together, me and my
Yeah.
girls. They're only 15 months apart and they're also very close. I think it helped bond them together, um, as well as, the three of us. And one of the things that came out of, my cancer experience or journey, I know people call it all different things, but is my girls and I do a trip every year. This year will be our 7th annual trip. And after Christmas, we go get lost for like 7 days and we go to national parks and we've camped the Florida Keys. We do whatever, but I really like to be in a
Mm.
no cell phone zone because, they're teenagers.
Mhm.
So it's really nice for us just to have that time together. And I don't know if I hadn't set out to give them the epic experience the Christmas after I went to camp. I don't know if I would have started that
Mm.
trend. So, and I really value that time with my girls and honestly, always looking forward to that December trip. So it's not Christmas that I'm excited about anymore. It's the trip. So
Yeah. I'm wondering if you guys have seen your girls, since you both have girls, grow as a result of this. I mean, not only you guys as a family, but them as individuals. You're both nodding. Any thoughts
yes.
on that you want to share, either of you?
I'll jump in. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
definitely seen them grow. I mean, especially around that time. I mean, it was between November and June 2018 to 2019 when I got diagnosed to when I had surgery. Certainly after the surgery, them seeing me at the hospital after surgery, I think it's just taught them how to manage feelings and
Mm.
trauma,
Mhm.
things that are traumatic at an earlier age, which might not be so bad, right? Because life comes at us hard and fast.
Yep.
And so I think it definitely kind of gave them some tools, maybe in an unofficial way, to
Mhm.
learn to manage and process those things or talk about them, because that's what we would do. I would come home and I'd say, girls, dad's got like some big feelings today. I remember one time I knew that I felt like an island because I was so young. I didn't feel like I knew anybody that I could talk to. My wife, of course, she's well-meaning, right? But she just can't
Yeah.
understand what's in my head. So I eventually reached out to like a group called Us Two in
Mhm.
Austin. And so I went to the meeting and I walk into the meeting. And this was a little bit after I was diagnosed, maybe 2 months after. And when I walked into the meeting, guys, everybody in the meeting, there was probably 40 to 50 guys in there, and they were all over 50. I mean, maybe over 60. And they were
Yeah.
all they had late stage cancer. So their stories were a lot different. And
Yeah.
what's crazy is when I walked into the room, the guy who was standing up at the front, and I had corresponded with him via email, he said, "Can I help you?" Or, everybody was looking at me like I couldn't be like, "Why are
You're
you
too
here?" And
young, right.
I had a backpack on, because I had driven a far distance, and I had my hat on. I probably looked like college kid or something. I don't know. I was like, no, I'm here, for them. And they were like, I said, I'm Michael Roy. And they're like, oh, but after
Wow.
that meeting, it kind of scared me. Before
Mm,
that, I was just like, okay, I know what I have to do. Yeah, it's still scary. But after that meeting, just the combination of like me being the youngest and them sharing their stories, it just scared me. I remember coming home and telling my wife and my girls like immediately, like as soon as I walked in, like, I don't think I want to do this, So they're watching me go through these feelings, and
yeah.
of course I changed my mind, but that was just my initial thought, like super scared, like, oh my God, what is ahead? And so
Yeah.
I think it's just helpful just to be transparent and just to wear our feelings on our sleeve in that way, because
Yeah.
this is heavy. And I think that's the best
Yeah.
thing we could have done from them. I'm sure Amanda would agree.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree, Michael, with everything that you said. It's really funny how similar our stories are, very similar, but
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah.
But no, resiliency, that is definitely one of the silver linings, not, for my girls, like you said, it's
Hmm.
so many tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I do think it, had them grow up a little faster.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
it did make them very resilient. And I mean, I remember driving them to school, and like, having my daughter upset about a test or whatever. And I literally look at them and go, "Hey, we beat cancer. I think you can handle this." And they're like, "Yeah, you're
I
right."
know that's right.
You
That's
know,
awesome.
yeah. And so, that was kind of always, a thing like,
Yeah.
"Hey, you can do this. We can do this." But I also feel, there were times, even not by choice, that I had to be extremely vulnerable in front of my children. I remember particularly one time I like, in that chemo twilight sleep, and I woke up and my daughter's like standing there with a cookie, like, Mom, Nanny said you haven't eaten today. You need to eat this cookie. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so, they became like servants, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Servants of the heart, they were, and both my girls like to do service. I think, that's part of it too.
Mm,
So
yeah.
honestly, I feel like if you could buy the biggest craftsman toolbox that Lowe's has to offer, I don't know if that would fit all the tools that
Mm,
cancer has provided them.
Yeah.
wow.
Um, so it's pretty incredible, honestly. And again, that's one of my biggest silver linings.
Yeah. Cancer sucks, but there are a lot of good things that come out of it, and you've
Yeah, and
just
I love what you
identified 'em.
said, Amanda. We
Yeah.
beat cancer. Like that's because we did. We did. It wasn't just
Mhm.
Right.
it was everybody who was tethered to that time period. So yeah, agreed.
Right.
Yeah. That's excellent, yes. So I'm curious for you both, what does thriving and living beyond cancer look like today for your family, and what do you think it's gonna look like, as you go forward? Amanda?
I will say I think I lived out loud prior to cancer, but now like really am living out loud. So um, I was telling some friends this weekend, I measure everything in the cost of a plane ticket.
Hmm.
So I'm like, when I leave Walgreens with my, $89 one bag of things, I always think to myself when I'm walking out, like, huh, I could have jumped on a flight to see my parents in Sarasota for $79. And so I've put a lot of,
Hmm.
my passion into traveling, into that time, that just to turn everything off except for focusing on my family and what's right in front of me, and healing through adventure and healing through nature, and just, letting things organically happen, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And just to comment quickly on a piece of, again, I was single, you know what I mean? I was
Mhm.
single, recovering from cancer, trying to figure out my new norm, going through menopause, trying to raise teenagers, all the things.
Mhm.
And, there is life after cancer, and there is dating after cancer. It actually happens. Um, and I just believe, we get to the place that we're supposed to be at the right time, at the right place, with the right people. It's,
Mhm.
we're right where we're supposed to be all the time. And maybe we feel like it's not the right place, but sometimes we just have to be still in the moment.
Yeah.
Um, and that's, I'm trying to live my life being still. And I have had to, tattoo it on my wrist as a
So you
reminder,
remember?
like, slow down. It really is. It's my reminder to just slow down, and that's really, my forecast for my life is slow down, take it in. And as Fatty would say, look up.
Yep.
Look up. So
Yeah. Thank you. Michael.
Um, I'd say thriving today means like living every day and remembering how blessed I am to still be here with and for the ones I love. It means I could truly connect with gratitude as a result of like surviving this disease I didn't even know I had. That just constantly for that reason, I always feel like there's a reason I'm still here. Like,
Yeah.
so for my family, I know my wife would say it looks like building traditions, like going
Mm,
traveling. We do a lot of traveling. Setting goals together. We do a lot of vision boards and setting goals and making health a priority,
mm.
going on walks or going on hikes and doing it as a family. Like, come on, guys, let's just go walk around the school that's right here next to our house. Let's go take a couple of laps and just do it as a family. You can, sometimes my
Yeah.
girls say, can I ride my bike instead? And I'm like, can we just walk this time?
Together. Yeah.
So, for the future, I think it's about continuing to live with a heart of gratitude and staying connected even when life gets hard and we want to shut ourselves out. It means making sure cancer is a part of our story, but not the
Hmm.
whole story.
Yes. I love that. Well, I'm curious if either of you have anything else to share that I haven't asked you about, specifically maybe for families who are just starting to navigate this journey. And I'm gonna let you both think about it, and whoever feels like speaking up first, go for it.
Amanda, you do want to, you can
oh yeah.
go.
Thanks, Michael. Well, and honestly, I was going to piggyback on something that you said earlier, Michael, and that is giving yourself grace.
Hmm.
So I think giving yourself grace is very important. I think that it is very important for not just us, but for the people around us to acknowledge our caregivers
Yes.
and to acknowledge like how difficult that really is. And I don't think I processed it at the time. I think it took me hosting a regional day and listening to my mom tell her story that
Interesting.
I was like, oh wow, you know what I mean? And so so again, just acknowledging them, encouraging them to take care of themselves because we're
Mm,
not in a good place to take care of anyone else if we're not taking care of ourselves.
mm,
And then also they're in a place of they're out of the control, right, of the situation. Like I could have chosen I didn't want to do this or I wanted to do this, and my caretaker was just going to have to sit there and support me through whatever that was, and that's hard. And they're carrying a heavy load also. So I guess acknowledging caregiver super super important.
Yes.
And again, Mike, we have so many things in common. But, remembering basically where you came from, you know what
yeah.
I mean? Like, what it feels like to be in the valley, and what it feels like to be on top of the mountain, and you know that you can be in the valley and get back on top of that mountain. So
Mhm.
I like to keep that as close to the front of my mind as I can, and use that as, a push into anything in life that I decide that I want to go after.
Thank you.
That's good, Amanda. I think I'll add to that. Something I would share is to make sure to ask as many questions as you feel like you need to
Mm,
ask. Don't be afraid to share your story too. Certainly the family members, because that's just one thing I found that, it's important for family members to know our diagnosis to know so that they can know to be on the lookout for it for
mm,
themselves. Again, had I known that prostate cancer ran in my family, I could have been getting ahead of it since I was already going to the doctor. And so I've just realized we're not doing ourselves. And I'm speaking from a male perspective too, because men, it's a lot harder for us to share things. So
mhm.
my message is to men, like, talk, ask questions when you go to the doctor, write down questions, take someone with you if it's your
Yeah.
partner or if it's your mom or someone who you feel like may be able to help you think through. Because honestly, when after I was diagnosed, I feel like every day was like a fog.
Yep.
Even when I went to doctor's appointments, I would always take my wife. I probably would have taken her anyway because she's just like very inquisitive. She's gonna naturally ask questions, but certainly I would take her even more then because I didn't really have the mental capacity to like lock in. And like sometimes the doctor might be like womp womp womp, and I
Yep.
I don't even know what they said. So that would
Mhm.
be my thing, share what you're going through with your family members, even if it's, after you've gone through it. But regardless, I think we just need to talk about these things and like be okay with sharing things. And when you go to the doctor, but ask questions. Don't
Yes.
just take everything they're telling you at face value. Don't be afraid. You have the power to advocate for yourself.
Yes, definitely. I think anyone who's been diagnosed with cancer knows that wah, 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 like you
Oh,
completely tune
Mhm.
out, and that's why you need someone else there.
yeah.
Yeah, excellent. All right, final question. Marshmallows over a campfire, slow and steady or flame and crispy? Michael, I'm going to ask you first.
I'm flaming crispy all the way. Life's too short not to enjoy a little char. So I want a little char.
Love it. That's great. Amanda,
I am same. I
you
like to catch
too.
my marshmallow on fire, and then when it's completely black, then that's when I blow the fire out, and it's perfect.
And Amanda, you're
Perfect.
from the South, so I knew you were going to say
Yeah, yeah,
that.
love it.
Well, thank you both so much. Really, the similarities in your story, and yet though they are different, is really uncanny. The fact that you both had daughters, that you were both the same age, and things like that. I really appreciate you both being so vulnerable, for being willing to come on and share with us. I know that you're going to touch people's heart with your story. So thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for having us.
And to those of you listening, until the next time we gather around the campfire, keep living beyond cancer.